I know,
It's your idea of how to handle it.
the primary guy.
How'd that work out?
Bad about not running or.
Not great, apparently.
Hey, Aurelio.
How's it going?
Good.
Hey.
Okay,
Today earlier.
start. I have a couple of people I need to get out of here.
Ah, you were there?
Yeah.
Nice.
We're gonna start. We do have a quorum.
Yes,
Confirm the posting of the agenda.
yes, the agenda was posted.
Any announcements or changes?
Yes, we're gonna move the action item that has to do with homeless services up to after the presentation on homeless service.
Okay. Else?
Well, I'm gonna remove G and H.
Okay, so consent calendar, we're gonna remove item G and item H. G and H are removed from the consent calendar,
And they'll be under office move.
so we're gonna move that to the office move. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar without those two?
No, you can't do that, Kevin.
I can?
No, we have to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cedric. Hi, Cedric.
Cedric.
Yeah.
Cedric, okay, Cedric, we need to do a 2449 for Cedric. So, do I have a motion to accept that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second.
Does it have to be a roll call then?
That does have to be a roll call
Okay.
after this.
Sed, do you have anybody over the age of 18 in your office or with you?
No, nobody's here.
No idea.
Thank you very much. So we're good now, right?
Yep.
Now I can do the consent calendar. Okay. Motion to approve consent calendar without those two items. I'll move.
Motion to approve.
G and H.
He made a motion.
Okay, so I got Sed making a motion. I'll second.
Oh, Craig, second.
Quick second, okay. I know everybody's trying to eat at the same time, so that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Carson,
Yes.
Lindo,
Yes.
Yes.
Hawthorne, here,
David.
West Beach,
Yes.
Inglewood, here, Mondale,
Yes.
Mita,
Yes.
here, Manhattan Beach. TV Estates,
Yes. Can I
Ranch Properties, not here,
Presentation.
Redondo,
Yes, it can be. Almost said here.
Rolling Hills, right here, Rolling Hills,
Here, yes.
Haven't done that yet.
twice,
No,
Yes.
SD2,
you're okay going after that.
SD4.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so now we'll move to presentations. And we do have a special guest who is going to be introduced by Martha Tremblay, LA County Sanitation District.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Martha Tremblay, and I'm the Assistant General Manager for the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. I recognize some of our directors here. Thank you for having us and our partner Metropolitan Water District to share with you about the Pure Water Southern California project and the release of the draft environmental impact report. So now the Pure Water Southern California project will take water from our Warren facility in Carson, where we treat wastewater, treat it, clean it up, and then it gets discharged to the ocean currently. This project would take that water, remove nitrogen and salts, and now we can beneficially reuse it for groundwater research in our region. So Eliza Mendez from Metropolitan will share with you more about the project, highlights of the draft EIR, and next steps. And now we're really excited about this project. You know, the sanitation district serves most of the cities in the South Bay. So with this project, we're creating a new water supply for our region. It'll help us be more drought resilient. It'll help us mitigate climate change, right? And as we expect, you know, there'll be less imported water in the future. So this is a very important project to help us be more locally sustainable. And with that, I'll turn it over to Elisa Mendez from Metropolitan Water District, who can start her presentation. Take it away, Elisa.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Martha, and just for giving a nice overview. You actually are helping me over here with some of the work that I have with presenting today, so thank you for that. So good evening, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. This is my first time presenting to your organization, so I'm really excited, but it's not the first time that we engage with the South Bay area. We have a lot of great engagement, particularly as part of our outreach program, which is what I lead for the Pure Water Southern California program. We have lots of times where we had your groups come out for tours. So although I can't see all the faces in the room, I'm pretty sure you've engaged with us, hopefully on some of our tours in Carson. So I'm going to pull up a presentation just so that you can track what all I'm talking about on the slide deck here. So let me make sure it's working properly. Okay. Can someone spot check me and am I showing the right display?
We can see your notes.
Yeah, switch displays.
There you go.
There
Is
you
that
go.
better?
Yeah.
Yes, me actually knows that.
Okay, perfect.
There's no-
All right. So
I just see your notes so I can cheat.
well, there was no notes on there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start just with a really brief overview of Metropolitan. I know Charles is on the call and I know he keeps this group very informed, but if you haven't been at these meetings before and understand Metropolitan, hopefully this helps connect the dots. So Metropolitan is the lead agency for the Pure Water program in partnership with the sanitation districts, as Martha explained. And what we do is provide water to 19 million people in Southern California, but we don't do this alone. We actually function as a cooperative with 26 member agencies that make up a connection points to other cities and utilities that then help serve those 19 million people. And so in the South Bay, we have the West Basin Municipal Water District, and we also coordinate with the city of Torrance and Long Beach to deliver water to your region. And so we do support a sizable economy. We service various counties within the Southern California region, and our water is imported, and we also have local supplies. And so our goal is to continue to be able to provide water to these 19 million people that depend on us. So there's lots that we do. We invest in local resources. We have a robust conservation program that we've funded with over $1 billion, but we need to continue to do more. And so there's a lot that's underway, including the recent approval just in April of a new framework, the Climate Adaptation Master Plan for Water. And this is a framework that helps us adapt to the climate, the changes that we're seeing and the changes that that climate is having on our water supplies. And what it does, it gives our decision makers a roadmap on how to make these investments with different goals in mind. And so the strategy that is included in this adaptation plan is really a roadmap with an assessment process that sets targets. So for example, one of the targets that's identified in this framework is identifying new water supplies for adaptation by 2035. So an example of that is we're looking to identify at least 300,000 acre feet of potential water by 2035. So that's one of the goals. And when you hear a little bit about more of this program and we talk about time-bound targets, those are some of the targets. And so the goal really is preparing our region for the uncertainty that's coming with the changes in our climate and our resiliency of our water supplies. And so we want to make sure we have programs like this that our decision makers can assess as they make decisions to invest in infrastructure for the future. And so when we talk about the framework and what it includes, it has a really comprehensive assessment process that actually took 2 years to develop. And so what it has these objectives that we want each program to meet. And so we go through this assessment and we identify the programs that sort of tick all these boxes. And so the goal is to then help our decision makers invest in projects and programs that sort of align with these objectives the best. And so right now, in addition to other programs, the Pure Water program is being analyzed according to this new framework, and we do anticipate that this program will check off a lot of these boxes. But that's just some of the different things and plans that we're doing to ensure that when we're making investments for the future, we're considering equity, affordability, we're ensuring that we're not leaving any stranded assets, because we're really thinking through how to adapt to the future that we already seeing in terms of the changes in our climate. And so, as Martha mentioned, the Pure Water program is an effort between our two agencies that would give us an opportunity to take water that right now is being discharged into the ocean and doesn't really have a secondary use, and actually provide a secondary purpose for it. And so I know she's explained a little bit about it, but just let me go through it here in a little bit more detail. So Metropolitan, as a lead agency, would be looking to develop a program that's regional. As a water wholesaler, we want to make sure that when we're developing programs, we can service the majority of our service area. And so this is a great partnership that allows us to specifically take that secondary water effluent that's going into the ocean, purify it further through a new advanced treatment process. And then now we have this pure water that we can use to replenish our groundwater basins. There's new regulations that California passed. So in addition to replenishing our groundwater basins, we can connect it to our existing water treatment systems and get that water into other parts of our service area, again, through the ground or through our existing pipelines. And so what it does, it takes this water that we're already using, purifies it, and we can keep using it. So it really gives us that climate resiliency. We have opportunities for emergency supplies in case of an emergency, and then we can store it during wet periods, and then obviously use it during dry periods. So that's the goal of this program, and that's our partnership, and that's what we're developing now. In terms of size and scale, it is a pretty big program. We're looking to purify 150 million gallons of water every day. That's 155 acre feet for those that, prefer one or another term on how to identify this amount of water. And so if you think about one of those time-bound targets that we have, which is to find 300,000 acre feet of water as part of the Climate Adaptation Master Plan, you can begin to see how this program sort of begins to meet that type of objective. And so this is enough water where we would be able to supply the daily needs of 1.5 million people or 500,000 homes. The project is still conceptual, but if it existed today, it would be the largest of its kind in the world. But there are others that exist similar to it. And I know there's many that are underway, including Pure Water LA, where I think they're looking at 240 million gallons. So they may be coming for our title at some point, but we're excited to be a part of the development of this new type of water. And so when you think about the program and what it is and this partnership, you also think about, well, what does that mean in terms of infrastructure? Or maybe I'm thinking you're thinking that. So let me explain. So we're looking to build new infrastructure, but also use existing infrastructure. So in terms of the purification process, we will be building a new advanced water treatment facility in Carson on the campus of the Warren facility. And that's important because we're going to partner and take different parts of the treatment process to purify that water. And it's a lot of water, 150 million gallons a day. In addition, what will be constructed there is a workforce development center, which we're really excited about. That's something that was really important to the city of Carson, was really important to the sanitation districts, and it's just something that we know is going to be very beneficial to the community, especially as we're looking to construct major facilities in that area. So then we talked about the treatment. In terms of actually moving that water, now that we have that purified water, and I'm going to look this way so I can point where the pipeline is on the map. And so we have now this water that we're going to move. So here is a blue line that starts in the city of Carson. So that's where we're connecting the water. It's an 84-inch diameter pipeline, so about 7 feet, that will be constructed underground about 39 miles from Carson to as far north as the city of Azusa. What you also see out here is that we strategically have the pipeline above several underground basins. So we have the West Coast Basin, the Central Basin, we have the San Gabriel Basin, the main San Gabriel Basin, and we also have spreading facilities. And that's because that's an opportunity to get a majority of this water, so about 60% into the ground. Our region depends on about 30% of groundwater that tends to get thirsty and dry, especially during droughts. So this is an excellent opportunity to replenish these basins and service your area. What you also see up here are these dashed lines is a connection to our treatment facility in the city of Laverne. And when we talked about those new regulations that basically say, you know, this process is confirmed and protective of public health enough that you don't just have to put it in the ground and let it go through its purification process and natural filtration process. You can actually put it directly into your pipelines. And so this pipeline here in orange, dash orange, is an existing pipeline that belongs to the San Gabriel Municipal Water District. And right now, the majority of that water that is conveyed there is from one of our watersheds, our imported watersheds, the state water project. And so they would allow us to use that pipeline to then blend this water upstream of the Weymouth facility, which we would then purify even further and be able to take that water directly into homes and businesses because that facility is connected to our central pool. And so that's when you begin to see the regional reach of this program. This other dashed line here is a pipeline that we would build when we advance a program fully. We are phasing it out into phases, so that pipeline will need to be built in order to sustain additional flows that are planned for this connection, which is referred to as direct potable reuse. So I'm going to keep going here, and we can come back to questions when I finish the presentation, but if you have one now, please let me know. I'm happy to answer it. Okay, we'll keep going. So as you can see, this is a really important program that's really important to the region, and we wouldn't absolutely be able to do a program like this without partners. And the source water that we're looking to purify here, that we're looking to for this water to become something that we can count on in addition to our existing supplies, would not be possible without the sanitation districts. And so our partnership doesn't just represent this opportunity to take this water and reuse it, but so much more in terms of land. They're providing the land for us to build the facilities. They're helping us with the part of the treatment that they're the most familiar with, which is the membrane bioreactors. And we could talk about purification process another day, but it's just a really important and amazing partnership. I'm really grateful to have them as part of this program that's going to help the region. And so below this first line here is our list of member agencies. I mentioned we have 26 member agencies, but 7 of them have committed to purchasing this water. And so I just want to point out that we have West Basin here, the City of Long Beach, and Torrance that are part of these agencies that are looking to support this program by actually purchasing this water. As I mentioned, 60% of the water supply, or about 90 million gallons of the total 150 million gallons, would be intended for groundwater recharge. So we have an excellent relationship and coordination effort underway with our groundwater basin managers. One partnership that sometimes people ask about is our partnership with the Colorado River. That river is a watershed that's important to 7 states, including ours, and a portion of Mexico and many tribes. And so one thing that they acknowledge is if we're looking to develop local supplies, that means we reduce our reliance on this stressed watershed that has been overallocated for 20 plus years. And so not only are they supportive of local supply development, but for this program specifically, Southern Nevada Water Authority is looking to invest nearly $1 billion if the program is approved, and they've actually contributed funding now. So really great partnership. And again, they see the great opportunity this has on the environment, but also on leaving water supplies for other parts of the Southwest that need water from that watershed. And so in terms of our other partnerships that you see here, there's just a lot of coordination in terms of the infrastructure. For example, Southern California Edison has about 14 miles of easement along the San Gabriel River that they are engaging with us and developing an agreement for us to co-locate our pipeline. And what that means is that we're keeping that pipeline off of city streets, which again goes back to positive impact for the community and a great partnership with them. So those are some examples, and we're doing that with other agencies too, like the Army Corps and LA County Public Works. So when you think about infrastructure and all that we need to do to get this water as pure as possible, you're probably thinking about cost. And if you're not, you will now, because I have this slide here for you. So in 2023, we estimated cost for the first phase of the program. So as I mentioned, we're phasing it in two. The first one will be 115 million gallons of water, so 115. And so we estimated that cost to be about $6.5 billion. The full scale 150 million gallons would be closer to 12 billion. And again, those are 2023 numbers, which likely will escalate as they did when we first priced out the program in 2018. The program was closer to about $3.5 billion. So, the costs are high. It is an expensive project. But we are doing everything we can to reduce the cost on ratepayers by looking for opportunities for funding. And so here is a couple of line items of grants that we've received from the state and federal government. There's also partner contributions, as I mentioned. We're working very closely with different partners, including the sanitation districts, including some of our partners on the Colorado River who have made investments through the conceptual design and research for the program. And so this totals about $228 million that we've been able to obtain for the program to help reduce that cost ultimately on the ratepayers, and we'll continue to pursue it. Grants that come available, bonds that come available, again, for the purpose of reducing the cost as much as possible for a very expensive project. So in terms of how other things that we're doing for community, I mentioned we have a workforce development center that will be built as part of the project. And this project will also be covered by a project labor agreement, which has a ton of great provisions, including local hire goals, transitional worker goals, and other training, internship opportunities that are within that project. And of course, constructing a project through the programs that ensure that we have fair wages and that the project is constructed perfectly well according to the trades that will help us construct the project. And so in addition to our project labor agreement, our workforce training center, we are actually also right now beginning to look into a pilot agreement for a workforce development plan that was signed by the City of Carson, West Basin Municipal Water District, Metropolitan, the sanitation districts, and the South Bay Workforce Investment Board to look at programs like K through 12, job readiness programs, and internships. And why we're doing that is because this project is projected to provide lots of different job opportunities. Once it's operational, over 2,000 jobs are identified, direct and indirect, and then during construction, nearly 75,000 jobs. So lots of opportunities, and we want to make sure that we're finding programs to get a workforce ready for all these jobs. And so when will these jobs be available? So let's talk about the schedule. So this schedule is broken down here in 3 sections. The first is completing our environmental planning process, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. We have a goal of completing that process by the first quarter of next year. It has been 4 years that we've been involved and engaged in this process. So we're excited that that's something that we see in the horizon. And in terms of design and construction of the facilities, we want to prepare for that. We want to be ready. So we have been engaging in conceptual and preliminary design, especially of the advanced water treatment facility, the pipeline, and the first reaches of the pipeline that will start in the South Bay area. We are looking at the first phase, that 115 million gallons of water, having a operational startup between 2033 and 2035. And so when could we begin construction? As early as 2027 in the city of Carson, and we are engaging with the city to make sure we are not impacting the Olympics in 2028. So that's always really important to everybody, so I like to mention it. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more on the environmental review process, which was one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today. And so, as I mentioned, it's been a 4-year process that began in 2022, essentially saying, we're going to look at a scope of work for this program to analyze it and understand what the potential impacts to the environment and communities will be if constructed. And so that process is done through CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. And so it begins with a process that gives the public an opportunity to let us know what we should consider as part of the analysis. And so that analysis has been put into a report, a draft report that's now ready for public review and comment. We released that report last week, May 14th, and it's going to be available for review for a few months through July 14th. And so the goal is to take any feedback on the analysis, consider it, include it in the report, finalize the report, and then have our board of directors certify the report and approve the program.
Head of the table. Can they get any better than that?
So in terms of our goal and ensuring that the public has ample time, understands that they're part of the decision-making process, we want to make sure that people know that this report is available, which is why we're so excited to have an opportunity to share with you today. And so it's really important for us to ensure that as this report's coming together and a final report will be provided to our board, that we have feedback on the analysis, on the potential impacts that we identified and how we would mitigate for those impacts. And so that's really important to us, which is why we want to make sure you know that what the report contains. It's a dense report.
Lisa, we have about 3 more minutes. That's it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. So, it's a dense report, analyzes the project as proposed, including 6 alternatives. And then for all those alternatives includes the identification of mitigation measures and the application of environmental commitments to reduce the impacts. So we looked at different topics that you see here, pretty standard. Most of these environmental topics here will be addressed through mitigation and reduced to less than significant through the application of mitigation measures and our environmental commitments. There are some that will continue to be significant or unavoidable, which include air quality and noise, cultural resources, and tribal cultural resources. And so I do want to mention that for the first 2, those will remain significant only during construction, but for cultural resources and tribal cultural resources, those will remain significant and unavoidable through construction. The report does address how we're mitigating for that and the different processes that we have to address that. So for example, for cultural resources, we will work with an archaeologist to provide training. So if there are findings, we can address those respectfully. So those are some of the things that you'll find in the report. And there really is an opportunity to take a deep dive and learn more. We have upcoming public information meetings where we'll have our experts that can really address the analysis in the report, the mitigation measures, what we see, all the different alternatives. And so there's a list of meetings here, with the first one happening next Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Zoom. But there's other opportunities to engage as well, including an in-person meeting in Carson on Saturday, June 14. There's a guide in this presentation that I'm happy to send that just kind of gives you, where you can find the report, what you should read, what you should consider if you want to provide a comment, and how you can provide a comment in writing. Different ways. There's a portal. You can send an email. You can send it in the mail. We have a dedicated website that has a ton of information, the report, an executive summary, That is all available on our website. I'll also send a copy of this. There's information on our social media as well. If you forget today, but you want to find it later. And so we will continue to do all of this engagement through July 14th and beyond to make sure people engage in the process. So I'm sorry it took a little long here, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I think what we'll do is we'll make sure that the board members and they'll get a copy of your presentation. And if you would put your contact in the chat, we'll make sure that gets out. So we thank you so much.
So thank you. I will put my contact here.
Thanks.
Happy to answer questions later.
Yes, let's move on. Let's do the Redondo Beach Functional Zero.
All right, Lisa, can you stop sharing, or David? Let me share my slides.
Is it that big? You don't remember?
All right, so Measure A. Measure A was, the $1 billion bond measure, that, not bond measure, but $1 billion measure that was approved for increasing Measure H homeless services. 65% of it was a continuation of Measure H, basically. And so that's not what I'm going to talk about. We talked about that kind of on our last board, and we kind of programmed that, or had a program roadmap for that funding, of which we got $3 million to program for our cities. But talking about today is the cost of funding, the housing agency funding, of which 35% of Measure A is dedicated to. This was released 2 weeks ago. This is the cost of release of these numbers. This is for one of the dozen eligible jurisdictions. And of the $382 million that La Casa is getting, we're going to get $11 million of a direct allocation. So the eligible jurisdictions are City of Los Angeles, some of these other COCs like Glendale, Long Beach, and then the other COGs. La Casa will also keep some of the money to program. But the buckets are PPO, which stands for Production, Preservation, and Ownership. So there's about $4 million of that has to go towards new construction. And then PPO Flexible, Production, Preservation, and Ownership, that's more flexible. So like we can use that funding to buy multi-unit housing on the open market, do preservation stuff, do soft mortgages for people looking to buy their first house, things like that. So that's about $5.4 million of housing, affordable housing build money. RPHP is an acronym for renter protections and homeless prevention. We're getting about $4.8 million. It's really two buckets in there. One is legal services, so eviction prevention, legal services, general legal services, and justice-informed legal services, helping people clear their background so that they can get jobs in housing. So that's that. And technical funding, I've never constructed affordable housing before, so we're gonna use that funding to provide us people with know-how to do that. And also there will be a data component to that as well.
Before you go on, did you mention this money has to be used every year in the fiscal year? So
yeah, for the
money.
PPO stuff has to be used every year.
Yeah, that has to be used every year. And so what we're planning to do right now is send out to your city managers and your community development directors the fact that we will be getting this money so that they can start thinking about possible uses, because I think we can use that money, but we don't want to lose any of it at the end of the year.
Ronson, quick question. What's the board priorities for $57 million? That's just kind of whatever they want to do with it?
The board priorities.
I think in a bond.
What Jennifer wants.
Yeah, they're most likely going to bond that. You mean the money that's with La Casa? Oh, you mean down here? Okay, yeah. The board priorities, yeah, that's kind of discretionary funding, but what they're looking to do is to bond the money so that they can move more of the funding up front. Kind of like with the transportation we do Measure M, but similar to that.
I was just,
The answer really is, I don't know that we know, and I don't know if they know, right? because they can bond the top money as well. So we don't know what's happening with that, and we're obviously gonna be monitoring that.
And then, so all this is gonna be happening pretty quickly. We really had to spend the money starting July 1. So we just received the MOU last week. We're working towards a July 1 execution date with La Casa, so we can start getting our money and then we can start spending it. We don't really have a game plan for the construction money. We do kind of have a game plan for the renter protection prevention money. And I'll get to that into that a little bit. But in the next board meeting, you can expect like a package of stuff from me, which I haven't really fully laid out yet, but we might be doing quite a lot of stuff in the next board meeting.
Oh, Ronson, sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this money we're gonna get or is it reimbursed? We're gonna.
No, we're gonna get it. From
That's
my
what I thought.
understanding,
We are
we're gonna
gonna
get
get
it,
this money.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
which is a little bit different than how Measure H has been, which is more of a reimbursement. So on the PPO side, $5.4 million must be spent this fiscal year. In general, we're open to ideas for funding. Like Inglewood has a housing authority, and they have the pipeline of projects.
An excellent one too.
Yes. And so, there's options there. Gunnar mentioned they have some developments going on. So yeah, like Jackie said, we're looking to talk to your community planners and see what's happening in the South Bay so we can program this money. Unlike San Gabriel Valley COG and Gateway COG, we don't have a housing trust. They do, and they actually have a pipeline of projects. So San Gabriel Valley, for example, has 120 projects in their pipeline. And once they get this money, it's gonna go straight out the door. Like they already know how they've already spent the money in their heads. And so some of the things they're gonna do is our short-term construction loans with that money. So we're a little bit behind in that sense because we don't have a housing trust in the South Bay. Just want to throw that out there. And we may issue an RFP. These are just some ideas. And like we mentioned, we're going to work with your cities to program it. 77% of the funding has to go to new construction. 22% can go to other types of affordable housing.
Before you go forward, one of the big issues that we're gonna be dealing with in the next couple of weeks is definitions. What is new construction? Is new construction buying a building and then remodeling it? Or is it really new construction? So we're trying to get the definitions as flexible as possible on this and on several other parts of the measure.
Yeah. So on the renter protection side, again, there's two buckets. So on the legal side, there's the eviction and like traditional legal stuff. So in addition to eviction, sometimes what we see are loan sharks preying on these kind of non-financially savvy people, and they buy a car with a 26% interest rate, and then they become homeless because of that. So that happens, and so we try to get them legal help to get out of that loan contract, so that so they're not a victim. So that's happening already, and these programs are slated to continue for at least another quarter. So they're currently there's not any urgency from my part to kind of contract with them yet. But there is some urgency on the justice stuff. So the LA County Homeless Court, not to be confused with the Redondo Beach Homeless Court, although the LA County Homeless Court is at the Redondo Beach Homeless Court. LA County Homeless Court does like low-level infractions, like speeding tickets, things like that, which can lead to homelessness too. And it can also lead to someone getting credit score reduced, things like that. The LA County Homeless Court helps with that. And the Criminal Record Clearing Project, again, lower level misdemeanor offenses, they expunge those records so that people can get jobs again and get housing. These programs are ending in June, so there is some urgency for me to kind of contract with those agencies so that I can continue providing those services here in the South Bay. Actually, Cedric actually does a great job of doing these programs in person too. So we definitely want to support these programs. On the rental assistance side, someone unmuted? Okay. So we on the rental assistance side, we'll be providing short-term rental assistance to prevent homelessness. And we already kind of do that with our client aid program. So it'll just be an expansion of it. Through the cost of funds, we can provide up to 6 months of rental assistance. The idea right now is to contract with 2 or 3 service providers that are currently doing this. And they'll be our rental specialists and we'll direct them, we'll direct our folks to our rental specialists. We'll also set aside some funds to give to some of our cities that have existing renter protection programs. Gardena is a good example of this. They have a great program. Carson, Torrance, they've done this in the past. In Torrance, there was the mobile home park that got sold and people were being displaced. Carson too. And so in those instances, these cities will come in and use some of their HUD funding to help these residents relocate. So we can support programs like that. Any questions there?
Yeah, just so, how do we define somebody that's potentially gonna be homeless? I mean, I look at Lamita and any instance, or I guess this goes true across all our cities, right? Any instance could make somebody homeless on any given day, right? So I'm trying to figure out, is there a criteria that we would use to, hey, go look for these funds? Or again, how do we get the word out if there's a concern about spending the money?
Yeah, so for La Casa is very specific. We can't use the funding for someone who is currently experiencing homelessness. And so what that means then is we have to define who is at risk of homelessness. And that definition can be very broad. It can be, or it can be very narrow. Like it could say it's only for renters. Does that mean you have to have a lease, or does it mean you're just paying rent, but maybe your mother is on the lease, right? So we have to, well, like what Jackie's saying, we'll have to work that out with La Casa. I want a very broad definition. So I want to include couch surfers. I want to include people that might be sleeping in their cars, but haven't yet accessed the homeless service system yet. So all that stuff, I want to get people out of that situation and into housing.
The one thing that I don't know is, and I'd like to look at the measure, whether changes have to go back to the voters or not. Because as you get into this, they have the possibility of hamstringing us so much, and can't be successful unless they make the definitions in a way that really can. I'm worried about innovation. If they have very narrow definitions, nobody will be able to innovate anything.
Yeah, and that's the problem we have now.
Yeah.
Councilmember Fucci.
Thank you. I just have a question. I believe programs should go across the board, and I do understand your point that it should be a little bit more broad definition. I'll give you an example. A tenant that was in one of our properties fell behind on paying the IRS. The IRS came in. I think it started off as $800. It turned out to be like $7,000 or $8,000 by the time you're done with penalties. And so it seems like the government has no problem overcharging. And you mentioned the 26% interest. That's nothing in comparison to what the government's doing to citizens. And not only that, they're going directly into their accounts, wiping everything off, like every account, savings, checking accounts.
Yeah, they're garnishing
accounts. They'll go in. So somebody that's not necessarily savvy with taxation and stuff like that could get their accounts wiped out, be thrown on the street because for non-payment of rent.
Yeah.
Will a program like this also have some kind of intervention against its own government?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to necessarily pay, like one government entity into another government entity, right? I don't want to take our taxpayer money and just to pay the IRS, right? So
no, but I
want to get legal representation for that person.
Okay, so legal representation, but I'm talking about like the overcharging of interest and penalties. The government has no problem charging interest and penalties. Okay, if a private entity did that, they'd go to jail. Okay, so my point is, will this program or programs like this help maybe alleviate some of those, I'll call it, predatory.
Yeah, definitely the predatory stuff. I'm not sure on your specific example of the IRS, but definitely the predatory side. We've sent people to do that. An example of that where the government was involved is Social Security. So we had a guy who was a dependent of someone else, and they were on that person's Social Security and getting that person's Section 8. Now they broke up, something happened, he left, but he was still dependent and he couldn't get his own Section 8. So we sent a lawyer there to force the person to take him off as a dependent so that he can get his own Section 8. So things like that, we can get a lawyer for to help with that. That was really recent too. Okay, so we're getting almost 6 times the amount that we've been getting before. So that means I'll need more staff, basically. So we probably need additional staff to administer, and this is just all, we're still talking about it, but it'll just be a lot for my existing staff to handle, which is just me, Addie and Miranda, but Miranda is really a program, so she's not even really staff. And then we'll need a data analyst, and then we'll probably need a housing specialist, but again, that might be actually paid for by the CASA, so it doesn't come out of our allocation. And then how I'm thinking about homeless services is kind of restructuring into 2 different departments or teams. So Addie, who we recently promoted to manager, she'll lead the Measure A services. So what you've traditionally been experiencing from us, which is client aid, time limited subsidies, share housing, all that stuff will fall under Addie. And then we'll have to hire a new program coordinator for her. And then we continue to have Kathy, who's our care coordinator for all your case managers. And then I'll start managing the CASA stuff. And I'll probably need a project coordinator there. Miranda has expressed interest that she wants to be the data analyst, so we'll probably move her there. And then we'll have that housing production specialist that'll be paid for by the CASA. But it'll be housed within the COGS. So that's kind of the vision right now. And then this doesn't include the additional administrative support that I'll need, which includes the legal support. We're already, not able to manage all the contracts coming in and out. So we'll need legal help, banking support, finance and accounting support, HR support, and general administrative support. So that's some of the stuff that we're gonna come back to you on in the coming months.
But
So I'm clear, we don't know what the programs will be yet, but you need more staff to administer these programs.
Yeah, definitely.
But he does know somewhat of.
Some of the
programs.
programs, yeah.
I think what we're waiting for, what I was gonna say is, I think Ron's is trying to get ahead of it. We're not gonna hire any of these people till we know what we're doing. But he's trying to give you an idea of what our current thinking is. So it might not come back to look like this, and La Casa they haven't also given us final direction, but we're trying to work with them and we want to hit the ground running. So we're trying to figure out what we can do, talking to your city staff and figuring out what the programs are now and what we can move into.
Yeah, I actually probably need the staff now while we're figuring this out, but that's not gonna happen, so.
No.
That's a quick question, kind of following up on Councilman Matucci's observation, right? I mean, if somebody is behind in rent for whatever reason, you'd think that they're a good candidate for potentially being out on the streets and homeless, right? So do we have data or maybe there's some communication or whatnot that says, hey, if you're 3 months behind in rent and you're probably gonna be out in the streets pretty soon, maybe we can help you cover some of your rent or something, right? I mean, and truly prevent somebody from, being on the street the next day when they get served by the sheriffs.
Yeah, no, we do have really good data on that, actually. Right now, for example, so right now landlords are evicting quickly. If you're behind a month, they want to start that process because all the new tenant protection rules are coming online, right? So landlords want to get in front of that. And so you can be behind on rent by just 1 month, and we're seeing evictions on that. And so what's been happening is that if you don't have legal representation, which most tenants do not in the eviction process, then 99% of the chance you will be evicted. 30% of all homelessness comes from an eviction event. So it's not actually a lot of homelessness that's being caused by evictions itself, but it is a major driver of homelessness is the eviction process. Now, when you get legal representation, you are saved from an eviction 80% of the time. So that's a huge difference between not having a lawyer and having a lawyer. It's pretty amazing. Of those 80%, 40% actually get to stay in their house, in the house that they were about to get evicted in. And the other 40% find another safe landing spot. So they agree to some sort of deal. Maybe the landlord's paying for a relocation fee or something like that, but they mediate that eviction and they're able to land safely somewhere. So having a legal representation is a big deal in the eviction process.
What about foreclosures?
Foreclosures, yeah, so Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't have specific.
Well, but we used to
Some-
have a list of foreclosure, of who the assessor, didn't the assessor have record foreclosures? Shouldn't we be staying ahead of that as well?
Yeah, I just don't know the mix of like, but I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, if something gets foreclosed on or something sells, right? Someone sells their property and the renter kicks the renter out. You're supposed to relocate them or provide some relocation fees.
Seems to me we need to monitor that.
Yeah.
Related to that, so almost all of this is focused on the renters. So if you do have a homeowner who, for whatever reason, is no longer able to fully cover their mortgage, is anything here geared towards keeping them in their house, or is it all, you have to be a renter?
No, yeah, so I mean, that's part of the definition.
Right.
So like, I wanted to find a renter as someone who's rented in the past, who's someone's currently renter, or someone who may be a future renter if they got this measuring money. So I want a very broad definition of what a renter is. And we'll see if that's gonna fly with the lawyers, so we'll see.
That's what I'm saying is these definitions are really gonna make or break this thing.
Okay, so just changing, so is that, I mean, that's basically it for the cost end, so more to come in June. But just want to make sure I've answered all your questions.
And we're planning, if this thing moves along as we expect it to, then I'm gonna be trying to get us on the city manager's agenda for June. So by the time we come to the board, your city managers will have been briefed on all of this.
Okay, so I just wanted to give a quick update on functional zero. It's still going on. We had that big celebration in October to celebrate Redondo Beach's functional zero. Since then, we've won a CalCog award for that program. We've spoken at the Independent City Association with Ray, and we've spoken in front of Santa Clara County, Las Virgenes, CalCog, and League of Women Voters. So it's gotten us quite a lot of attention throughout the state. Just a reminder what that is. It's functional zero street homelessness. So not necessarily all homelessness, but street homelessness. We want our streets to look clean and safe to walk on for our kids, things like that. So what that is that we want inflow and outflow. So people falling into homelessness and people getting out of homelessness to have a 1-to-1 ratio. Every time someone's falling into homelessness, we want to take someone out. So that's the magic ratio. And we also want their experience of homelessness to be less than 90 days. So that's the criteria we've created to determine if the city's in a functional zero state. That's just a reminder what that is. The county doesn't do functional zero for whatever reason. They're the ones that kind of planted the idea in my head. But then when I said, yeah, I want to do it, they're like, oh, no, we actually don't want to do it anymore. But I just want to say there's a lot of other cities doing it. And that's just a few of them. So there's nationwide consensus forming that functional zero is a path forward. One thing that might be the reason why the county doesn't want to do it is because you need to create a by names list. So the county has 70,000 homeless people. So I think that sounds like a lot to them to create a list of 70,000 names, but we're doing it here in our community. So, or in the functional zero communities that I want to do. So that could be one stickler. And there's different types of functional zero. You don't have to necessarily solve for all of your homelessness. You can do functional zero street homelessness, like what we're doing. You can do functional zero veteran homelessness, which the VA is wanting to do. You can do functional zero senior homelessness. So there's different flavors of it. So back in July 2024, when we issued the press release and got all that publicity, Redondo Beach was at 14 days median duration. So on average, someone falls into homelessness in Redondo Beach, they're off the streets in 14 days, which is amazing. Their inflow was 65 people in the 6-month period, and their outflow was 66 people. What was interesting is where the people were going. Only 1/3 of them were going into shelters. So you don't necessarily have to have a 1-to-1 shelter bed ratio to homeless person ratio, is what we're finding. Because a lot of them actually want to reunify with their families. We were sending people back to Connecticut, back to France even, and people just want to reunify with their families or get back to wherever they came from. That's 15% of people. So those are some of the findings that we were doing. And that circle has kind of held up even since then. So the update through December 31st, 2024 is the median duration is still pretty low. It's at 17 days. Inflow during this period was at 46, outflow at 45. So it's just a little bit less, but I'm going to give them a little bit of credit because the placements are more difficult during the holidays. It captured the Christmas and Thanksgiving season. And they had 20 active street people on the street. as of 12/31. So they're still in a functional zero state, and the numbers are still looking pretty good as of today. So they're still doing great. And we have other functional zero cities that we're doing. It's very data intensive, so I can't unfortunately have my team do every city in the South Bay. But we're trying to expand into the other beach cities, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Torrance. So we have meetings once a month with these cities to look at their numbers. We're 5 months into our first 6-month tranche of data collection. And we're already seeing some interesting data that kind of deviates from the loss of homeless count. I don't want to say too much because we haven't briefed our councils yet on any of this stuff. So I'm gonna hold off till July, August, which I'll brief them. And kind of our role in all this, not only is the data collection, but we're kind of like the management consultants for advising their teams on, different ways to think about housing each individual person, providing ideas, connecting them with different resources. So that's kind of what we do in Functional Zero. But yeah, that's that.
Questions?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is
we're-
your action item.
We're gonna,
Oh, yeah,
we're gonna have, he needs to get to a soccer game, so we're gonna move. to this,
Yeah, sorry, my son's in the finals today, so.
All right.
Congratulations.
So I just need an action from you all. There's in the packet is a contract with St. Margaret Center. They're part of Catholic Charities.
Page 123.
Yeah, they're going to administer our time limit subsidy program. There was a similar contract that was approved last month. It's the same contract, just with a different provider. So we'll have 2 providers providing this. The city of Torrance actually also has this contract. And so we're just trying to get our money out the door to provide subsidies for folks that are currently on the street. So just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion in a second. Go ahead.
Bill, is that you?
Yeah.
Carson,
Yes.
Alcindor,
Yes.
Radina.
Yes.
Hawthorne. Here. Rose Beach,
Yes.
Inglewood,
Yes.
Lawndale.
Yeah.
Lamita.
Yes.
Long Beach.
Yes.
TV Estates,
Yes.
RPP. Redondo Beach,
Yes.
Rolling Hills, here, Rolling Hills Estates.
Yes.
Torrance,
Yes.
SD2,
Same.
SD4.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck. Hope you guys win. Okay, let's do our budget.
Okay, next item is the budget item. Kim, are you doing that or?
We're gonna do it together. Laura and I are gonna do it together. And so this is the draft, and what we are doing tonight is presenting to you and want your feedback on the assumptions and the allocations, and then we would be bringing it back to steering committee next month for the final sign off, and then the board in June for the final sign off. And then the budget would go into effect July 1. One thing to keep in mind is that we do not have this additional $11 million budgeted into this particular budget. So if we have more details from what Ronson was talking about, we'll incorporate that into the June, and then we'll present to you what the changes are so that you'll have the full picture. But I just don't have it right now.
One thing you need to know is somewhere along the way, we're gonna have this money
At
that we
some
don't
point.
know yet.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be changing the budget, but we don't wanna guess right now.
Right.
Second thing, if there's no changes, the way it works is in June, we take all your input today. If there's not a lot of input or there's no significant change, it will come back on the consent calendar. But if there is significant changes, it will come back for decision.
To both the steering and the board next month. Okay. All right, Laura, you want to go ahead and start?
Yes, all right, we're starting off with just a comparison of where our numbers were at mid-year and what we are proposing today. As you can see, both our revenue and expenditure categories are anticipated to increase almost proportionately. We have the estimated increase for revenue at about 11.9%, followed by an anticipated increase for expenditures at about 13.9%. Next, we have a summary of our primary revenue sources. So as you could see on the left side, our revenue we continue to have our primary revenue source at 89% to be our grants and contracts. That is followed by then 7% for our dues. And then last but not least, we have 4% coming from other general fund reserves. On the right side, we have our expenditures. Our primary category for that at 45% is our professional and contractual services. It's basically us hiring consultants and vendors to implement the 89% on the left for grants and contracts. And that's followed by 28% for our salaries and benefits. And lastly, 27% for supplies and services. And an important note on this slide is that 8% of our revenue, including the homeless services budget that Ronson just went over, is basically passed through revenue or funding that gets distributed to the cities.
And that's the current Measure A funding, not the 11 millions we were talking about.
Yeah, that's currently Measure H, and then we'll have Measure A
Excuse me,
soon.
Measure H, that'll turn to Measure A. Okay.
Yes. For some noteworthy increases in our revenue, the 11.9% that we're anticipating, the primary sources that are contributing to that, first are SCAG or REAP 2.0. We already did kind of the study or the legwork for that for REAP 1, and now this is the implementation phase, and also the housing trust added onto that. So that's about an increase of 400,000. Followed by that, we have also another REAP 2.0 source, but directly through Metro for mobility hubs. And that increases about 353,000 compared to mid-year. We also have the Caltrans Carson to the Sea Gap study. This is new funding that was not in our mid-year budget, and that will take our budget to an increase of about 246,000. And then we also have the SoCal Ren Cool Roofs feasibility and identification analysis. This is also a new source that was not in our mid-year budget. We are getting definitely more than 175, but that's what we are factoring in our fiscal year 25-26 budget. We also have an 8-year contract for the LA County Ren. So just to factor in the funding that we've secured for 2026 already, we've added 56,000 to that. And then lastly, we also have another source of funding, the Decarbonization Direct Install, that's also through LA County. And we are getting more than that amount on here, but we're factoring only 51,000 for fiscal year 25-26. And next we have some noteworthy also increases that are contributing to that 13.9% increase. The primary one being salaries and benefits. Because we need additional staff to implement all of these programs, we're anticipating an increase of 324,000 there. That includes what Ronson alluded to for the staff that will be coming on. It's not factored in the budget yet, but we already kind of factored for 2 vacancies.
Yes, Laura, let me just clarify that. That is just our current budget that does not have the additional staff, and Ronson that'll look different. Yeah. These are just staff.
One vacancy that we included, yeah. Next for that, we did have a 5-year contract with one auditing firm. So of course, fees have gone up incredibly much higher than 5 years ago. So the proposals we've collected averaged about 15,000. So that's an increase for our audit fees. And then last but not least, because of the anticipated move to the new office, our rent has gone up or will be going up about 57,000, and it includes utilities as well. I think the next slide. Yes, I'll hand that over to Kim. We do have 2 policy changes that we'd like to discuss with you.
Sorry that the S is going on the downside of that title there. So we have 2 policy considerations that are incorporated into this draft budget. The first one is the restricted reserve. And so the current policy in restricted reserve is the 3 months of estimated operational expenses that were based on 22 and 23 fiscal year 22 and 23. Because we're moving into a new location and the rent is going to be much higher, we thought it would be prudent to go ahead and look and see what operational expenses would be estimated at for a 3-month period in the new budget, which would be the 25-26. And so that would increase our restricted reserve commitment to 649,751, which we do have funds for in our budget to do that and have that restricted reserve. So that's the first policy item. I can stop here before I go to the second one if there's any questions on that one. All right, and then the second one is a salary schedule increase. And so the board has already approved salary schedules. You usually do this as part of your budget cycle anyway. But we've only adjusted the entry-level positions to match state law, because what's been happening is that minimum wage has gone up every year on January 1. And then that affects our salaried position because they have to be double that of minimum wage. And so what's happened over the last couple of years is we've adjusted that bottom end, but we've never adjusted the top, and we're starting to lose our entry-level positions. So what we did is created a scale that just allows for that growth and longevity of staff in positions without bumping people out of positions. And that's actually the next slide you'll see here. This is in the budget, and this would be the scale. We had a question at steering committee. Is it the difference between the entry level, the entry range and the top of the range? Is that the same difference on all of them? And it is not right now. And that is because of, those lower positions, the range kind of shrunk more because we didn't do any adjustments. And so some of those ranges, there's like about a $5,000 difference, and some of them have a little bit larger as we go up. We do want to look at this more closely, and we anticipate that we might bring something back to you later this year. Looking at some of the positions as well, especially because we're bringing in this additional funding, and will we need other kinds of positions, or what do those job descriptions look like? And so we'll be doing that a little bit later, but this is what is actually in the budget right now. The other thing, just to let you know, that this is not, these are the positions, but they're not necessarily all filled. This is just what the ability is to fill them as we have needs for the organization. The actual dollar amount for your positions is in the budget. Do you have questions on that one?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So is the argument that because the minimum wage is increasing, every step above that has to increase?
So, yes, that's what we did yes. And that's what we did this time. We haven't done that in the past, but I was starting to lose those entry-level positions because they're getting wiped out by the entry level, by the minimum wage. Yeah.
What percentage of your staff are eligible for overtime?
The only positions that are overtime are your administrative assistant, the project assistant, you'll see right there, in the intern and the part-time. We have some part-time hourly staff, but actually the part-time staff wouldn't get overtime unless they worked more than the 9 hours in a day, because we're on a 980 schedule. So those are the positions, but I only have, I think, 2 staff right now that are, or 3 staff right now that would be in those hourly.
Not a
positions.
big impact. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then just other things to note in this budget. We have several grants that have been submitted and that are pending. The Caltrans adaptation grant, which is the $350,000. We also have a Caltrans sustainability planning grant, which is $399,000. You can see the number 575. We do have one grant that was awarded that was kind of held up, which was our SS4A, which is Safe Street for All. And that's our first federal grant. And so it was held up, but it was actually released. So we plan on moving.
We just found out last week that we have a kickoff meeting coming up. And we don't know if they're going to change the grant very much because it is e-bike safety and it's ride and drives and micromobility. And I don't know that any of that is really a priority of the new administration, but it looks like we are getting that grant.
Right. Although that 400,000 has not been programmed into the budget.
Because we didn't think
because we didn't know. And we'll have to see how the funds actually flow because we know those have been held up. And then again, the $11 million is not programmed. So questions. And then you do have the actual budget in your packet on page 103. The packet.
Yeah, 103.
So moving expenses are not.
Yes, you do have the remainder moving expenses. So
in the page.
Yeah. So it's on, there's
108.
I'm not sure what it is. What is it? This is 110. Like it's 110. Yes, so it's on page 110. Sorry, my page numbers got cut off on the. It's at the very bottom. It's that account code 6221, and you can see that we're only moving in the 35,400 because we anticipate that we have had some expenditure since then, and that's all we're going to need into the next program year. So we have some of them, some expenditures that were done this year and some that will be done in the new fiscal year.
Page 110 is the fund balance sheet.
108.
108,
108.
excuse me, 108.
But you might want to look at 110 anyway, because that shows the our fund balance.
Fund balance.
And the fund balance is where you see the restricted reserve.
And on the page between that, we've got the salary schedules. Is accountant not a full-time? Because that one is below the double minimum wage, you're 7,099. All the others got picked up to
99. I believe that's correct. Is that, do you know, Laura, or is that a typo?
No, it's
We can
correct.
make that-
And just so you know, we don't currently have an accountant on staff. We're
Okay.
contracted with Ide Bailey and we only pay them $4,000 a month.
But we should put hourly there. It's missing that.
Other questions?
Is your slide deck in this agenda as well?
No, I don't think so, David, is it? The slide
These
deck?
slides?
Yeah,
No, these were not included.
okay, but we can send them to you.
Can I please?
Yes.
Other questions?
So please know that this discussion is open. We're going to be bringing it back to the steering committee and we're bringing it back to the June board meeting. So if you have any questions, it would be helpful for you to let us know in interim. We'll get them answered at those meetings.
Yeah, so just read it over.
Any input now you want to give that we can make?
We're doing, sometimes we come with you and say that we can't quite balance the budget because we don't have grants. And we're coming to you and saying, not only do we have money, but we have money that we can't figure out where we're going to put yet. So it's a new world for us, but it's because we're really getting a lot of,
Efficient, we're extremely efficient.
yes, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
No questions. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
We'll go to item B.
okay, that's Kim's item as well, the South Bay Environmental Services. Director.
Let me share my screen. I'm so sorry. It wasn't like ready here. Oh, sorry.
You should give it to David.
All right. It should be, it's just a little bit of a delay. There it goes. All right. So. There it goes. Okay. So I just wanted to give you a little update of the Environmental Services Center. One of the things that we have been doing recently is working on the business direct install. And this is just some of the pictures of the team out into the community. They're focusing on the city of Gardena. And that's the team right there doing direct install audits. We also have, for those of, most of you know that we do about 100 events a year. But this year we're doing an enormous amount of events. This is where we go out into the community and we give information about sustainability. And we give all of our partner program information as well, like West Basin, for example, or sanitation, which you had the presentation earlier. And we hit 100 events in the month of April. April is Earth Month. And then in one of those events alone, we were able to collect like over 100, it's actually 100, but was probably a little over 100 email addresses. And so we do have communications that go out to the community. We have a very high open rate on our email communications. And so having 100 more emails is
Well,
fantastic.
The total of right now of our email blasts is like 17 or 18,000.
Yeah. We also have a very active volunteer program. This is a field trip that we just took the volunteers on to the sanitation district. And that's some of our volunteers there that are getting some. We also I asked the staff, well, what are you most proud of? And these were some of the things that they said. We were able to get the Green Business Network certification for the entire South Bay. This is a certification program that requires a membership for. statewide program. Some cities had been participating over the years. They have reduced their state earmark. They used to get a state earmark that went away because the state budget was so bad. But I always wanted to bring it to the entire South Bay. And so we were able to get that. We do have some meetings with some city staff to talk about how we would roll it out in the individual communities. The other thing is there was very limited supplies in the Kits for Kids program, and this teaches 4th and 3rd graders about energy efficiency. It's really fun for the kids. You can see a classroom right there, or several classrooms right there that had met some of their goals. And they also give $2,000 per classroom if all of the students participate or a good number of the students participate. And then also we were able to, was the pictures that you just recently saw. We're actually the first regional partner to do the pilot for the commercial direct install. And then just some more accomplishments. We have now finished 7 of the city greenhouse gas emission reports, and these are the cities that are done. And we did meet with the city staff to show them how to read the report so that we can get good feedback from the city staff. We also have the resiliency hub analysis where we're working with the cities to identify locations that they would like to have resiliency hubs at, or expansion of their current resiliency hubs. That's something like a cooling center. The city of Pomona was able to actually take the information that was the result of this report and put it into a grant, and they got a few $1 million to implement. So this could be a great resource of information for potential grants for each of your cities. And then we also completed 13 of the city AB 802 compliance reports, and this is your benchmarking report that's required for any buildings that are over 50,000 square feet. Have to submit this every year to the state. And so just also some information that we've been watching because we have a new administration. We're being thoughtful about what that might look like in the environmental field. One of the things that did happen was AmeriCorps lost their funding, or most of their funding, and a lot of staff, like they were told, like 100 staff had to leave their service
In 24 hours.
Yeah,
Or less.
yeah, it was.
Very, very disruptive.
And AmeriCorps actually pays for our Civic Spark Fellows. We have 2 Civic Spark Fellows. And literally we heard on Monday, we might have a problem. Tuesday, we have a problem. Wednesday, don't go to work. So what we were able to do was bring them on as part-time temporary staff because they have a very short period of time to finish. It's about 16 weeks. And so that was great. We didn't have a delay or disruption in our function. We were able to keep going with the work that they're doing because
It was very, very hard on them. They're young and they're doing a great job, and they get this notice that they have to not come to work.
yeah.
It was really, it's bad.
The other thing that is being looked at closely is that they may not fund Energy Star, and that's what you see on appliances, which is that certification. But importantly, Energy Star also has the online benchmarking tool that we actually use to submit all these reports. And so that would be terrible if we lost that. But we have gone ahead and downloaded. It's all the utility data. So it's all your facility utility data for years, right? So you can look at how your buildings are performing, and it really informs decision-making as well as investments. And so we did download it, but we're hoping that doesn't go away. And the last thing that I thought was very interesting is we have been doing green business programs for a while, but and the team has been out there in the field, but what we were hearing back is that in some of the more the business areas that have larger Hispanic owned business is that the individuals were more reluctant to talk to the staff. They had to convince them, oh no, we are from the South Bay Cities Council of Government. We're here on behalf of the city. We have this program that you can take advantage of. It's free to certain businesses. We can install new lighting, refrigerators, and things like that for you. And we were able to overcome and actually do the audits, but I was surprised actually in that response in the communities. I wasn't expecting that. And so that is all I have. Are there questions?
Any questions? Good report. Thank you. Senior Services.
In Senior Services, Ronson isn't here, and we have a meeting on May 27th, which is next Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning. Have guest speaker from the Beach Cities Community Awareness and Emergency Response, Cities Care. We have a presentation on GIS. Eleanor Murphy, our own GIS person, is gonna give that for seniors. And we're gonna be talking about an update on the county motion for their, Janice Hahn, I think, is the one that put in a motion for comprehensive emergency registry system for older adults. And so we're gonna be talking about that and any legislation and other issues. So May 27th, 9:30, it's a virtual meeting. If you need the agenda, it's on the website, or you can let me know. That's the senior.
Thank you very much. Transportation. Oh,
There's one more senior
Time out.
update. We applied for an AARP grant for can't even remember what the grant was. Oh, emergency preparedness and to give out emergency kits. And we did not get that grant. That's the third time we've applied for an AARP grant with support. And so next time this comes up, we're just gonna give it to nonprofit, send it out to your communities and see if they could be more successful, because we clearly are not successful on that grant. They had 3,000 or something applications. So they're just not giving to government, is what we think. So, but we did not get that grant, which would have really helped ours.
If they won't do a debrief,
Yeah, they
we'll
won't.
try to get a deep, well, yeah.
So, okay. So next is transportation.
Transportation.
Okay, so the first item on there is the request from the city of Inglewood for approval of their scope of work modification for the Inglewood Transit Connector project. The full presentation that was made at the Transportation Committee was included in your packet. Carly is here, and I have a shorter slide deck for that. But generally speaking, the city went back to the drawing board to see what's feasible, the funding that they have currently, and a plan to meet future needs. The project is now the ITC program, consisting of 2 phases. The second phase being the people mover in the long run. Phase 1 is a multimodal mobility project for the near term. And the Transportation Committee recommended the board approve the city's request for work modification. That is keeping with our standard kind of process with other Measure R&M projects. We do that quite frequently. So if you wanna
Well, David,
give your little
can you
overview.
summarize the report? I don't want.
I was gonna say, he did it.
Yeah, we
So-
have a multi-phase program that incorporates the community feedback we've heard over the last 6 months. We're excited to be able to bring really immediate mobility improvements to the city and the sub-region to address day-to-day needs of constituents and serve major events. So we appreciate the staff recommendation and are ready to work with our state, local and federal partners to move it forward as a phased program.
So we will see this again, right, when you have a budget and you have a project. This is a concept, and the recommendation is to say we agree with this concept at this point, but we will come back.
Yeah, we're
Budget.
free to come regularly, and I think we're planning to come back in the fall. As we will talk about the Measure M, the item related to considering a Measure M allocation was postponed until the fall, and at that point, we'll have refined budgets to present and talk through with everyone.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Okay, Carter,
Yes.
Alcivendo,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Barnes, that's it. Remote Beach,
Yes.
Wood.
Let me think.
Yeah.
Take that as a no. Yes.
Mondale,
Yes.
Lamita,
Yes.
LA's not here, Palos Verdes Estates.
Yes.
Rancho Palos Verdes not here, Redondo Beach,
Yes.
Rolling Hills is not here, Rolling Hills Estate.
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
FD two,
Yes.
FD point.
Yes.
Yep. Next up is
10405.
Metro, oh, 405, right.
First both.
this is another recommendation from the Transportation Committee. I think we've had some of these updates for you in the past, but as you know, there's the I-4, Metro's leading the I-405 auxiliary lane project from the 105 to Artesia Boulevard. It's currently wrapping up design. They were going to be starting utility relocation, but they have a significant funding shortfall for this project. Metro is the lead on the environmental and design phases, but was not willing to be the lead agency on the construction phase of the project, probably because it requires being fiscal responsible agency, which comes with huge financial obligations. They, I think it was late last year, at I-405, or sorry, Solutions for Congested Corridors Program grant funding. We're not able to submit an application at the time and approach the COG to determine if we were willing to step up and assume the fiscal responsibility for the project. Construction of it is estimated to be about $130 million, with an additional $40 million for Caltrans to do construction management and oversight. Jackie and I, we believe it's a very valuable project, safety project. The 405 is not designed to current standards. A good example of what that project looked like is the I-405 at Crenshaw. That lane connecting the on-ramp and off-ramp between the Western Avenue and Crenshaw Boulevard exits. It's a merging lane. It really does improve safety and weaving in that area. But in talking to some of the other subregions who've assumed this responsibility, the price tag that they see is not the price tag that they ultimately pay. Caltrans frequently gets behind schedule and over budget. So the $170 million request could conceivably to be 200 million or more by the end of it. And so we wanted to bring this back to the board for a formal decision, so we can notify Metro to either stop work or whatever you ultimately decide. Our recommendation is to stop work. They'll be able to pull back from the utility relocation process, all of that. We will still have a designed project, so if and when we come across some funding to do this, we can revisit it. But at this time, the staff and transportation committee recommendation is to inform Metro to.
Yeah, this is very regrettable. We've only worked on this project for probably 20 years. And now it's just as ridiculous for us to take it on that we would have to fix a state highway. Something's wrong with that in the first place. So
one of the things that we would do is work with Caltrans to kind of get it into their line of projects for safety improvements.
It should never fall on us in the first place.
Yeah.
So
the board has a longstanding policy since pre-COVID of funding the environmental and design phases of projects to get them positioned for outside funding. So we not only step away from that policy, but and the thinking is that especially for the 405, it's not just South Bay serving the entire county and beyond, and why our subregional program should be the fully funded source for that project was just not something that we ever really.
And the one thing I should say, and for especially for board member Butts, that the reason this is before us today is because Robert Machuca at Metro raised the issue and said, people are spending money on this project. And can you tell us if you're going to fund it? Because we should all stop spending money on it. And I thought that was very responsible of him. Nobody was bringing it to the table and he brought it to the table and we investigated it and said, no, this is absurd. So people can stop spending money on this. It's a little crazy. So I guess I want to thank him regrettably for bringing this up and getting it done.
Thank you. Discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Got a first and a second to approve the staff
So who's the second?
recommendation.
It's like a bidding. Yeah.
So,
I said.
Foundation Gala, I did.
yes,
No,
no,
mine's a no.
oh, okay, it's a no.
Alcindor,
Yes.
Gardena,
Yes.
Popcorn, not present, Hermosa,
Yes.
Inglewood,
Yes.
Mondale,
Yes.
Lamita? Yes.
President House for these states,
Yes.
Ranch House for East. Down Beach,
Yes.
Golden Hills Estates,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
SD2,
Yes.
SD4.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Our butts.
Okay, hey, real quick, it's just gonna be about the budget, just give you some situational awareness. The total metro budget is $9.4 billion, up 2%. Regional pass-throughs to local transit and cities is 1.8 billion, that's slightly down from your last fiscal year. Metro is issuing 2.4 billion in new bonds to support expansion programs. Debt service is 490 million, up 22%. Fare revenues are projected to increase by 1 million in fiscal year 26 to 1.75 billion. Due to the broad array of reduced fare programs, Metro's provided 12.7 million free rides in the first 6 months of fiscal 25. Since ridership is projected to increase by 3.8%, Metro is assuming its free rides to increase significantly in fiscal year 26. Here's an interesting point. Beginning fiscal year 26 fund balance will be 3.75 billion. The end balance will be 1.35 billion. At this burn rate, Metro faces the prospect of a zero fund balance by fiscal year 28. And Metro staff is unsure at this point how they're going to deal with this structural problem, particularly with the diminishment of grants from Washington these days. And Metro's requested 3 billion in the fiscal year 26 federal budget for Metro's Olympics mobility program. Now, David drove all the way out here and he's going to give us whatever left.
Answer.
Okay.
South Bay government relations. I have just some other updates about the agency. Last week, Supervisor Hahn proposed a feasibility study for a water taxi. So this would connect the Long Beach, San Pedro and San Pedro and Long Beach. So the idea is Long Beach has about 12 Olympic events. And so you could take the J line down to San Pedro and take a water taxi over. So it's just was recommended for feasibility. It's going to come back 3 months to the ad hoc committee. But there was a lot of, it passed the committee unanimously. There's a lot of support, a lot of speakers in support of it. So I think this water taxi thing has some momentum for it, which would be an exciting thing for the South Bay.
Would you say it has legs?
I was about to say that.
Sea legs.
It has propellers.
Does the J line go all the way to the water?
The J line goes, I believe it does go all the way to the San Pedro water. If you go, it's really close there. The idea would be that you would take the J line and then you would take the water taxi. Maybe there might be something between the J line. and-
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. That's part of that'll be part of the feasibility with. Yesterday, we had a really large meeting for a grant. We have a new grant called the Open and Slow Streets Grant. And this is, we have about 141 people. I'm not sure if anyone here in the room was there. But this is a grant program for $10 million for car-free street events for people to walk, bike, and roll. And so the idea is that this is going to be something that the cities can take advantage of for the FIFA World Cup and for the Olympic Games. And this is, it's only going to pay for road closures. It won't cover the cost of programming for events. But the applications look like there's going to be, it's going to reduce traffic volume and CBOs. So cities can apply for it, and also community-based organizations can apply for it. So the application period is anticipated to open in August. There will be 2 rounds of funding for it. The 26-27 cycle and the 28-29 as well. It's happening. So I'm happy to send people the webinar, but this is a really exciting grant program. To really have people get together for these great events. And then the final thing I really want to talk about was we're really excited about is the opening up of the LAX Metro Transit Center on D-Day on June 6th in the afternoon. So that station will open up. It's our largest station, 3 stories, and we'll be having shuttles to the airport. Will be going every 10 minutes from that station to the central terminal area. So the people mover from LAWA won't open up until LAWA's been very specific about this, January 8th, 2026. But so between June 6th and January 8th, you can take a shuttle from that station into the central terminal area. So yeah, we're really excited about having it open on that date. There is an event. It's invitation only, so I know it's been sent out to many people, but it's going to be a really exciting thing. We're all looking forward to doing that. We're stuffing goodie bags, everything for the event. So that's happening. Everything's on schedule for that. And the final thing, actually, I would say is that we also just recently hired our own transit police chief. So chief, his name is Bill Scott. He was in the LAPD for 27 years. He went to San Francisco. He was a police chief there for 8 years. Now he's coming back to Metro. I think his first day is coming up in the next month. So we're excited about that to launch our, to relaunch our police chief. Yeah, great.
Thank you, sir. Quick question about the shuttle.
Okay.
Is it in the shuttle only lane or is it a shuttle mixed in with the other zones of people in the loop?
That's a good question. I don't know the specifics of that. I assume it's how it is now,
Okay.
Yeah, but the idea is in January, trying to.
January, yes, but in the interim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a few more items, everybody, so hang in there. On micromobility programs, the local travel network, we're still working with several different cities. But I wanted to mention a Carson to the Sea, which is our Caltrans grant, which is going from Carson through Lomita and to San Pedro and potentially to the sea. We've just gotten that started. Tool Design is our consultant, and meeting, I think, happened and they're scheduling the work on that. So that's coming up. The e-bike safety issue, that is our SS4A grant that we've just mentioned, the federal grant. That grant will cover, if they keep it the way it is, it covers e-bike safety and it also covers ride and drive demonstrations, so new events in different cities. So I'll just go on to the REAP projects. We had a meeting today of our Housing Trust Feasibility Study Group. I don't know if any of you were there. Yes, you were there, Debbie, so correct me if I'm wrong. We went over the housing needs assessment, and I just love the statistics in the housing needs assessment. It's a report that's available for anybody that wants it. But the statistic that I love is that if you take the RENA requirement for the South Bay and you look at the available funding that's coming in, we're at least $1 billion short a year to make the RENA requirement. And so I think we should take the report and actually use it with our legislators, because if that's what it looks like in the South Bay, we're just a very small part of what's going on. And there's no way we're ever going to be able to make this as hard as you try. It's a question of how much failure, not how much success.
Don't worry, Senator Wiener has us covered.
And commercial redevelopment,
Who's gonna cover the wiener?
just to be a consultant for that, which is Studio 111. And are they the lead? I can't even remember. And yes, Studio 111 and their team, and they're going to be doing commercial redevelopment to housing in several different cities.
Oh, Lord.
And then the mobility hubs, tomorrow I'm going to read the final draft of the RFP for us to get a consultant to work on mobility hubs. It's got to go to Metro for their approval, and then it comes back to us and we circulate it. We're hoping to circulate that RFP starting May 30th. So that's that. And then we have 2 more items on the agenda. Office space and nomination of officers. So Kim and David, do you want to do office space?
You want me to do the consent items first, or how do you want me to?
Why don't you
The
do
memo and then.
the overview first and then the consent item?
So last month, the board approved the new lease agreement. We met with the property management staff like 2 weeks ago now. And they were confident that both spaces would be ready for a July 1st move-in date. Any unforeseen construction issues, we're planning for that. Which means the board meeting here will be not here. It'll be offsite. We're working with Gardena right now to see if the community center is available. There's a couple IT items that are on the agenda I'll get to in a minute.
Thought about it today.
Office furniture, we will be, we're doing an inventory of what we have today, what we'll be relocating, and then kind of doing a plan for acquiring whatever other needs we have on the road. I think that's pretty much it in the memo portion. Were the two items that were on the consent calendar. Those?
And these are recommended by the steering.
Yeah, these are recommended by steering committee.
I just. Sure.
One of the items is internet service. As you know, here we are connected to the South Bay Fiber Network. The network does not currently serve the new office. It was a $400,000 or $500,000 connection at the time to connect the new office there. We're not closing that door, but we're going to continue to work with the new owner of and operator of the network to see what kind of options are down the road for connecting the site. We did start working with AT&T and Spectrum, who do serve the new location, to get some quotes for service from there for both of them. We had asked the steering committee to authorize staff to assess exactly what service we need, and then authorize us to move forward with the selection for one of those. We've budgeted about not to exceed $225 a month in the new budget that you guys looked at earlier this month, today. We have kind of two options in front of us. One is dedicated service, which is like what we have at the the South Bay Fiber Network. We don't share it with anybody else. So you're pretty much guaranteed whatever speed you purchase. The other one is kind of the best effort, which most of us get at home, which is an advertised speed, and then they do their best effort to get you to that speed. The factors are how many other units and people are drawing down the same kind of broadband feed into the building. I think that the staff is right now leaning towards the best effort service because it doesn't require a multi-year or multi-month commitment. It's a month-to-month service. And we thought that it's best to start out with that, see how it works for us. That's the kind of service we had in our old office. And then keep the door open to either connecting to South Bay Fiber Network down the road, or if we choose to go with dedicated service from either AT&T or Spectrum, those require a 3-year commitment. So before we commit to 3 years moving in, we want to see how kind of things are at first. Another main difference between this location and the new one is this place is pretty much an all-inclusive type of rental agreement. So that in-suite janitorial services are included in our monthly rental rate. At the new building, it's not that way. So we have to contract out with janitorial services for in-suite cleaning. We did receive quotes from 3 or 4 different vendors, and the recommendation in the packet is for staff's recommendation for Vanguard janitorial services. It would be two days a week, full cleanings every week for a month, each month. Moving services, we got 3 quotes for movers. One of them we used last time, Mover Services, and then we received quotes for 2 others. Mover Services Inc. is the recommendation. They were both the most affordable, and based on our prior experience with them, they were on time, under budget, took real good care of us during the move process. The range that you see in the memo reflects either a move directly from this office to the new office, or the higher cost is with a month of storage if that direct move is not feasible based on when the new office is ready to go. The third proposal in there is for cabling, so pulling out all of the Ethernet cables from the walls. That's part of the closeout of this office. We have to clean it out and get it ready to turn back over. Our IT services vendor Sharp, we got two of the cabling vendor proposals. And we are recommending PCC Network Solutions that were far more affordable between the two. And then the fourth one is the Xerox equipment relocation. Obviously, it's a very sensitive piece of machinery. We don't want to have the regular movers move. So the QDocs is who we have on contract for the device itself. They're going to facilitate the move and get it set up in the new system, the new unit. So that's the first memo. The other memo is.
But before you do that, why don't you take a vote on the first memo?
Okay, so having heard the first memo, I'll entertain a motion to approve the first memo.
Approve.
Second.
Go ahead, David.
Bernadette, Carson?
It's gone.
So then I can do a first roll call.
Yeah, there you go.
Otherwise. We should stop.
Nobody else can leave.
You all have to stay.
It's just the last.
So we have a motion to approve. Any abstentions, any opposition? Thank you.
Thank you. Second memo.
Okay, so the second one is both move related and just general IT related. Pull that one real quick. Okay.
Just an observation on that. If we have to pay storage because the place isn't ready, why wouldn't we have the new landlord pay for it?
Kind of like the house.
If it's not ready.
Yeah, I think it will be ready. I mean, they were pretty confident that the.
I'm just simply saying, because you said there was two prices. One of the price that included an upside if we have to go delay it, and any costs associated with delay should be borne by the new landlord, I would think.
It's kind of like buying a house, right? They can't get in.
We'll have to look at the lease that we signed.
Yes,
See, because I did say we'd get in by July 1st, but I
right.
don't know if there's damages or whatever.
Again, I don't think this is gonna hold up our vote, but it's just an observation. I mean, I think.
No, if that becomes a problem, then we'll definitely. About that, yeah.
If you're paying rent and don't have possession, that's the problem, yeah.
Well, we wouldn't be paying rent. If it's not ready by July 1st, we would not be paying
Yeah.
rent. The issue is,
Yeah.
it would be incurring additional cost, and so we would need to look into that. Because it would be their fault that would
It's a
incur
good
the additional.
question, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second item
Put it at
is
my house.
IT equipment purchase and move support services. And this one had three proposals in it. The first one is Sharp, our vendors, labor support for relocating all of the IT equipment from this place and getting it set up in the new office. The second is the new wireless equipment for the new office. And the third is not directly tied to the move itself, but would have been a cost regardless. Our firewall and security equipment and licenses have kind of reached the or near the end of their supported life. And so this is sort of an IT purchase in general, but we're doing it at the same time so the office has the new current equipment when we're moved in and ready to go.
You don't have to wait. Okay, anything else about that? Okay,
Recommending approval.
recommend the approval. I'll entertain a motion for the second memo.
So moved.
Second.
David?
Any opposition?
No.
Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, last but not least, very important.
Yes.
Jackie, good.
Okay, and normally, or not normally, in the past, we've had a nominating committee. I did last year, since there were so many people that were interested in being an officer, that we would just do nominations from the floor. I did solicit, I announced that was gonna happen at this meeting, so you have to formally open the nominations. Zaino Baji did contact me and say that he was interested, but the nominations are also open tonight if you want to nominate yourself or somebody else. So I think chair, you should declare the nominations open and then.
Okay, nominations for 25-26 are now open. We will entertain any nomination from the floor.
And it's for all three.
Well, it's
positions.
actually, well, it's essentially for all three positions, but normally that we move up the chairs, so we're really. We're talking about. the second
Technically,
chair, Yes.
second best.
So if you're thinking about yourself, it's two,
Ideally, it's
3 years
second
from
vice
now,
chair, right?
yeah, second vice chair. So there's three.
Anybody?
What happens when you don't have a nominating committee?
Don't be shy.
Don't make eye contact.
Don't be scared.
I know this one.
Okay, well then we have Zain Obaji on the floor right now.
Okay, so yes. Go ahead.
I wonder if Councilmember Segura Mayor Segura might be interested.
Can somebody else nominate somebody else?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You
nominated?
I'm just wondering if she's interested. I think she'd be great.
Well, if you nominate her, we'll find out.
I appreciate the confidence. You could have texted me that instead of doing it. Not this year, but
Okay.
very much for your confidence. It's 3 years from now.
Yeah, don't worry, it's 3 years from now.
I do share Jennifer's
I mean, after
enthusiasm.
That actually works.
Oh, but it'll end before that.
We're just saying, you know, it's.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good
It's a
job.
progression.
Thank you so much. No, the nominations do stay open till the June meeting where you close the
Oh.
nominations and you have election of officers.
So right now it's open and the only person that's actually put their name in
The same.
is Zane.
This is the same.
So this is just the preliminaries.
Yeah, he's already there.
Are you?
So if you want, in the interim, if you think about it and you want to, let somebody know so they can nominate you. If you have someone in mind like Debbie, should you talk to them, should you talk to them off site and just get their permission and we can do that. Okay, so right now,
Nominations are open.
nominations are open. So keep that in mind. It's a very important. And it doesn't hurt too much.
Tell them it's not that much work.
It's not that.
Famous last words.
Yeah. Not that much. Okay, so with that, I want to say congratulations to Ray, who is now our board member on the Coastal Commission. We appreciate that. Are there any other announcements or, yes?
You know, I'd like to find out a little bit about the process of how things actually make it to the agenda. And if there's any ideas here at the table, what's the process? Do we have to go through a steering committee? Do we have to get council approval from our respective cities, then bring it here? So, you know, maybe some clarity as to what, and I'll give you an example. I brought forward in Torrance the idea of a catastrophic plan versus just an emergency preparedness plan. Because what I found with my research over the last 5 years is that we're only really good for about 7 days before chaos starts kicking in. So if there's a major incident to where the power's out for, let's say, 3 weeks, what do we do? You know, and I think a lot of the cities might have their own plan, but are we communicating with each other? You know, and I think the COG would be a great starting point to get the cities to communicate on a true catastrophic plan. I'm not talking about, having 20 gallons of water in the house and Band-Aids, stuff like that. I'm talking about what happens when the power goes out? What happens when the water's not running? What happens when the gas stations aren't pumping gas on day 8? What does that look like? What happens when FEMA is so spread out because the issue is so large that FEMA can't come to you for 20 days?
So Jackie's pin is on fire right now.
I'm sorry, I'll get you the fire extinguisher.
Some kind of allowance to have that done.
Yeah, I think that the answer to your question is at one of our steering committee meetings, it was put on, there was an item, I don't know if it's still on the agenda, that was items to bring before the steering committee was an item that was on the.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
An item for the item, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you can, I think you should refer, I'll put this on the steering committee agenda. We can talk about it. And I think the first thing is we don't have any funding for it, but maybe we can brainstorm places to get funding that we could do something for the subregion.
Yeah, and there might be even some private investment the companies that supply, whatever, emergency kits could be part of the conversation. I'd like, and for instance, there is some level of disappointment because every time I mention it, all the people that are involved in the emergency preparedness, it almost seems like, well, what do you mean? Our plan is perfect, but when you start digging in, when you find out that there's only three days of gasoline storage at our water pumping stations, and they say, well, then we can always order more. I go, what if there is no more?
Yeah.
See, it's always the what ifs, what happens on day 4 at the pumping stations? Torrance is not going to be pumping water. Okay, on day 4.
Something that we'll bring up.
Yeah, so anyways, just something to think about.
Okay.
But we can do more on a regional basis.
I have a quick one. June 5th, our chief of police is having a retirement go away. It's gonna be, I think, at 11 o'clock at our Nakoka Community Center. So come on by, say hi. He's done a great job. 34 years as a policeman.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else other than what do you guys have? The street fair coming back?
Yes, to Hermosa this weekend.
Fleet Week at the Portobello.
Not promoting it, are you?
Yeah, Fleet Week,
We.
go to the Green Onion in Pedro. It's a great place for margaritas.
Stay away from those colors.
Remember, when you're coming to the June board meeting, Natalie's gonna probably send you 17 different notices about where it's gonna be. We discussed a little bit about going to Torrance, but we haven't solidified that. We're discussing going to Gardena. And as soon as we know, we'll send something out, but it will not be here.
We'll find a
likely.
place to land.
And it also probably won't be virtual. I mean, there won't be a virtual component. Because we just don't know if we'll be able to find a room that does everything.
Good.
No.
Out of here.
Hi.
It's down to yours.
Should have done a toast.
No.
We'll do a toast in the new place.
You wanna take it